This month marks my 8-year YouTube anniversary, and actually it was 8 years ago today that I sat down in this room to record my very first YouTube video, which then took me a few days to edit and then a few days to post. You wouldn't know it looking at that video how much work went into it, but that was huge for me to be able to share something and, put myself out there, not being behind a camera, but being in front of a camera, not something that was originally intended. So I wanted to take a little bit of time and reflect on that, kind of share a bit about that journey and just sort of some of my thoughts and feelings about this 8-year anniversary. So I've been a YouTube user since the very beginning, back in 2005, just kind of, when it's just like a video sharing site and you just sort of watch whatever happens to pop up, random goofy videos. Steve Jobs' 2005 Stanford commencement speech, I remember being one that I watched a lot. People playing video games, people playing, those guitars that are like double guitars, all that kind of stuff on the original iteration of YouTube. And then I have a very clear memory of in like 2010, 2011, that's when I started following specific channels. I did not know how to subscribe to channels at the time, and it wasn't incorporated into your Google account, so I didn't have a YouTube account. I just logged in and like checked different channels that I watched regularly. And that was kind of the first time I had the feeling of, oh, I would really like to do this. It's not just a random video that someone is sharing that I'm happening to see. It's something that someone made on purpose to, communicate something to an audience or share some expertise or some perspective or something. And that seems really cool. And, I'd watch these channels and think that would be a really cool thing to do. Not quite connecting the dots that like it's free. It's a free account. It's still true. Anyone can sign up and do it. Anyone could do it. That's the blessing and the curse of YouTube. But it wasn't, for 6 years later that I finally decided to hit the create account button, make a YouTube channel, and start posting my own videos. And at that time, I had been a high school digital media teacher for a number of years, which was great, except as someone who loved audio video production forever, the time I was a teacher, I wasn't really making a lot of my own stuff. And my students would ask me, they'd like, Mr. Buck, what do you make? What have you worked on? And I would say, oh, I help you make your projects, which is true. Like there wasn't a lot of extra time to do things. I was helping hundreds of students work on hundreds of projects, and it was, a 70 to 80 hour a week job. Like I'm not going to go make a short film or something in addition to that. But that really did start to kind of wear on me, the fact that I was like helping people make stuff and I wasn't making stuff of my own. The closest things is I would I do wedding photography, or I would do like almost like promotional videos for school districts. So like kind of corporate videos, which were really fun from a technical standpoint, because you're doing interviews, you're doing lighting, you're doing B-roll, you're editing it all together. But from a personal creative perspective standpoint, very middle of the road, bland, vanilla, boring, like no sense of personality or perspective or point of view or anything like that. And those would oftentimes take, 3 to 4 months to get finished by the time you have to go through all the revisions and the approvals and all that kind of stuff. So by the summer of 2017, I was really itching to make stuff on my own. I'd been, watching Casey Neistat's daily vlogs at that time for a while. And he was somebody who really made it seem like not only could anybody do this, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to spend 4 months on something agonizing over everything. You could make something pretty cool in a day, and it could be imperfect. You could have, it doesn't have to be totally polished to be good. And so that's when I finally decided to create my YouTube channel. And originally I wanted it to be a channel that did make kind of like these mini documentaries that's why it originally was called The Enthusiasm Project. And it would follow people who were doing things they were enthusiastic about, kind of like these mini profile piece documentaries. And I tried to like schedule all that and figure it out. And I realized at best I could make maybe one video every 2 months, maybe, especially working a full-time job as a teacher. It was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to make videos. And a lot of times then there's going to be travel and expenses that I cannot cover. And then I realized, well, if I'm the one in the videos, then the only limiting factor is me and my schedule. And that means I could probably make a lot more videos, especially with summer break. I was a teacher. I had a little bit of free time there. Then I didn't know what to make a video about. So my very first video is how to get your Part 107 drone license, because I had just gotten mine. I found, trying to weed through the information to get that to be a little confusing. And I thought, oh, this is my chance to put together like a very clear, use these 3 resources, pass the test kind of video. I had a clear purpose with the video. I could explain it really well. I was very nervous that I made that video. It actually was like, it's a good first YouTube video. Like, you know, it's a little dry, but it has a purpose. People actually watched it. It was helpful. Even still, sometimes to this day, people go like, hey, this is still helpful, getting their drone license and stuff. And then from there, things kind of grew on their own. I was experimenting with different vloggy style videos, a lot of 3D printing videos. At that summer, a couple months later, is when I happened to, via YouTube, meet somebody who would become my wife. And she kind of really pushed me to like, just get going. One of her first questions to me was like, why don't you actually have a YouTube channel? Like, why aren't you actually making your, you know, videos regularly? And then I did like a 30-day upload challenge, and I just kind of started sharing everything I could, and then slowly just kind of realized, well, the thing I really like a lot is, you know, audio video production, cameras, microphones, all that kind of stuff. And so I started making more and more videos about that kind of stuff. And eventually the channel kind of like found the niche of, you know, audio video production, especially geared towards one person. And the reason I bring all this up is because recently I was asked to lead a workshop at the Palm Springs International Film Festival for high school students about sound, because they were working on short films like during the short film festival, and they had people come in to sort of teach these different workshops. I was asked to do the sound workshop, and part of that was, hey, before you just jump into your, you know, the topic and the curriculum, give a little bit of background about yourself and your history. And so I put together a keynote presentation, and I actually thought, you know what, I'm going to share that with you, because it was kind of fun to put this together and explain. It was really fun to teach in front of students again. I have not been a full-time teacher since 2021, so over 4 years at this point, this has been my full-time job. I very much miss teaching. I do not miss being a teacher. Turns out those are 2 very separate things. And, you know, we could talk about that. So I'm going to go through the presentation that I gave to the students, a little about me presentation, and maybe you'll find that fun and informative. And if nothing else, then at least I don't lose it to the hard drive. I can kind of have a record of it. So of course you introduce yourself. So I start with a slide about myself. When I use Keynote, okay, when I make videos, I don't like using cheesy transitions and stuff, but when I do Keynote presentations, oh, cheesy transitions, my absolute favorite. And that has always been the case. Maybe that's because being a teacher, you're trying to capture the attention of like teenagers. So it's like, hey, look at this twirly whirly thing. So, you know, I introduced the fact that I was, you know, a full-time YouTube creator with a channel that has over 600 videos on it, which is pretty cool. Thinking that 8 years ago it had 0 videos on it. Now it has over 600. And I think the total channel views at this point are like 23, almost 24 million, which is terrifying. It's really cool. It's a lot of people if you think about it. And most of those aren't me, so that's good. Then I shared a picture that was taken not long before the pandemic started of me and some of my broadcast students and the broadcast set that I built. All of them are way out of high school at this point and in their 20s, but I'm still gonna just kind of like blur this because they were students at the time, and I don't know what the rules about that are. So just know that these are smiling, happy people right here. I promise they were not under duress. But this looks great, right? Like this is a picture, especially if you can see the clear thing like I'm seeing right now. Everybody's happy. It's a really cool environment. It did not always start that way. So dramatic cut to black. I became a teacher in 2010, and I got my like first full-time contracted teaching job in the 2011-2012 school year. I was an English teacher for remedial 9th grade English, strategic reading, and yearbook. So that was my thing. I took that job because it was a job, and it was very impossible to find jobs back then. And I really like doing yearbook, even though they usually pile that on new teachers because nobody wants to do yearbook. But I thought, hey, it's photography, it's graphic design, it's like a fun project you get to work on. You get to make a thing that people get to share at the end of the year. I ended up doing yearbook for 6 or 7 years till it like literally couldn't fit in my teaching schedule anymore. I actually really, really liked it. I got my first classroom, I got my contract, and I went to the classroom. I taught at it was a decent school. Like it's a Title I school, so it's not like a rich school or anything like that. But the facilities itself were pretty decent, except new teachers were sort of put out in like the boondocks, where it was like, if you survived your first year or two, then you would get brought into the main campus. So it was kind of like this portable-ish classroom. I don't think it had been used in a while, but I was so excited to have a classroom. And I remember I opened the door and I took my phone and I just stuck my phone in the door and took a picture like before I could see what was in there. And this is what I saw. This is this is just a pile of desks, and most of them are broken. And the school started like a week after this. So it was like, you have to turn this into a space where people can learn. You might also notice there's not like a ton of desks in there. And there's definitely more students in the class than there are desks. So those are all problems to solve and things to figure out. You also notice there's not like even a teacher's desk or a bookshelf. There is a CRT television on a cart. And this was, weirdly enough, one of the few classrooms that had a built-in projector in the ceiling. So I actually did have a projector, and that was kind of it. And then I inherited 2 Canon Rebels that the yearbook company provided when we signed our like publishing contract with them. And I had to borrow the computer lab to do my yearbook class every day. And so I tried my best to make this classroom look great. By the time the school year went on, I felt like I did some pretty good interior design on this, and I, shifted it around a lot throughout the year. But it was a fun, like welcoming, cool place. And even though I had some pretty tough students that year, we were kind of all in this weird situation together. And I think it really did help kind of like build some cool relationships and help us like, I don't know. It was a very tough school year. I think I like gained 15 pounds, lost 10 pounds. I was sick all the time. It was very stressful, but emotionally it was a very good school year. I did get pink slipped at the end, and then it was rescinded. And anyway, the next school year they were like, you're doing great. The pink slip was because economically they were laying off teachers everywhere. It's not because of performance. I actually got a Teacher of the Year award and a pink slip on like the same day, 2 days apart. So that was mixed signals. The next year, I got to have a new classroom, and this time it was also a mess. This had been like, I think it had been a storage room / indoor gym, quote unquote, for like special needs students. And then it had just kind of gone into disrepair. It was also not really supposed to be a classroom. It's kind of like a common area between a bunch of classrooms. It's very, very strange. So I was like, okay, cool though. It's a lot of space, and I'm in the actual building this time. I'm not out in the middle of the boondocks. And it was a lot of space, which is really cool. So I spent so much money and so much time turning this space that shouldn't be a classroom into a really cool classroom. I was teaching 10th grade English at this time. But at the beginning of that school year, maybe 6 weeks into it, right at the beginning, I got called into the principal's office. Not because I was in trouble or anything, but because the principal was telling me that one of the teachers in the digital media program at the school, which is a very well-established, really good program, had announced he was leaving kind of suddenly. And he's like, you like digital media stuff. Do you want to take that job? And my immediate answer was yes. I knew no other details about it. I just thought that would be really cool. I didn't even know anything about the program. I was like, I like that stuff, so yes. So then I inherited yet another classroom, this one significantly bigger. And you notice there's technology in there. There's full Mac computer lab, although a lot of stuff didn't work. There was like no real curriculum. It was kind of a mess. And there's a lot of cabinets and drawers in this photo. Every one of those was just filled with like junk. But it was like weird junk. So it'd be filled with old newspapers from like 10, 15 years before, an old sandwich, but then like a Canon 70-200 2.8, $2,000 camera lens. So it took me, throughout the course of the school year, 8 months to clear out that entire classroom. I was coming in on nights and weekends, and I can't even, oh my God, there was a storage room that was literally like a hoarder's nest. It was rough, but there was some cool gear there. The teacher who I took over for was like, this camera right here is our main camera for everything. And it was kind of like a photojournalism bent thing, and it was like a tape camcorder. It was a decent little camcorder, but it took tapes. This is 2012. We don't need to be using tapes. He had 2 Canon 5D Mark IIs as part of the class. And I was like, oh, keep in mind, the Canon 5D Mark II in 2012, it's kind of a thing. That's what I was watching a lot of YouTube videos about. And I was like, do you guys ever make videos with the 5D Mark II? And his answer was, yeah, I guess you could. And I was like, okay, that's what we're doing. So anyway, as that school year went on, I found out that students were checking out cameras to do like their photojournalism projects, and then finishing that, and then making their own short films over the weekends and stuff. And so I worked to restructure the entire curriculum to do the thing that the students were like secretly doing in their free time. Like, let's just make that the class, the thing we all want to do, and we can have a lot more fun that way. And then it took a lot of time. It took so much time and effort, but eventually I was able to turn that into a really, really productive, really cool space. Hopefully you can tell in this photo it's significantly cleaner and more organized, but it's also every cabinet is labeled and organized. And we also had a lot more kind of modern and appropriate equipment at that point. Tons of good microphones, DSLRs. It was like, still had like some of the 5Ds. I think it had some 5D Mark IIIs even, a lot of Canon 60Ds and that kind of stuff. So it was very much in the DSLR video production kind of world, podcasting kind of world. I had revamped the entire curriculum to be all 4 years, 9th through 12th grade, UC approved career technical education curriculum. So that means it actually counted towards students' graduation credits and all this stuff, which is, it's kind of hard to do. And it was pretty cool. And, hundreds of students went through the program and it was pretty great. I taught this part of the program, which is like a video production. And then another teacher taught like a still image and animation part of the program. And we then helped other schools launch their own programs. And I guess we did a decent enough job because in 2015, another school started approaching me saying, hey, we're rebuilding a campus. We don't have any programs in our entire school district. Could you put something like this together for us? And I didn't want to leave this job because it was a really good job. And it was like, working with the students was amazing. Getting to work with them for, 3 to 4 years, you really get to I don't know, it's very different than compared to just a regular class that a kid takes and leaves and forgets about. So I did know though that I would regret it if I didn't do that. Every day I had a bad day at this job, I'd be like, I could have had my own program. I could have built it from scratch, done everything. And part of me was also kind of scared that the only reason this program was successful was because it did kind of already exist, right? It wasn't as good before I took it over, but it did kind of already exist. And there was also, another teacher with a different part of the program. There were dedicated counselors, which was great, but it also kind of made me worry that maybe I'm not the reason that this is successful. And if it were just me on my own, I would fail horribly. Maybe I should give myself a chance to see if I fail horribly doing this on my own. So once you know it, I inherited another classroom. There was another school in a different district being totally rebuilt from the ground up. It had been in portable classrooms in a grocery store parking lot during the reconstruction. And they had a broadcast program that had been in place for many, many years. You see a green screen, you see some lights at a glance. It kind of looks like, yeah, it's a little broadcast studio. But if you look closer, this is 2016. The cameras are Canon GL2s, cool cameras. I have, one in my closet right there. Not one of these, one of my own in the closet right there. They don't look good. I don't even know where it was being broadcast on some local internal CCTV thing. So no one could actually watch the thing. It was horrendous production. All the computers were from, 2005 or older. It wasn't great, but there was a new campus being built. So I have videos on this channel kind of about that and sort of in there. I had a full computer lab. I had a production studio. They were empty rooms that I then was able to turn into a full computer lab and production studio and stuff. And, it was the first Mac lab in that district because they didn't want to do anything with Apple computers. But I was like, we're doing media production. It's a career technical program. Those industries do tend to use Mac OS a lot. We kind of need Macs. So I was able to do that. Was able to build a broadcast set. I have a whole video about this on the channel because I started the channel the same summer that I built this, summer of 2017. So, my second year at this school, I was like, I'm going to do something really cool, and just kind of spent my whole summer building this broadcast studio, which was super cool. And then even during the pandemic, when things were online and virtual, I tried to make it as fun and engaging as possible. So this is kind of what my setup looked like when I was teaching. And I have videos about this too. I've covered a lot of it. And that's kind of what it looked like for the student side of things. So even though they couldn't be in the classroom, I tried to still, share concepts with them, show them examples of how things worked. And also kind of for the time we could get back together in the classroom, be able to, to share what they could do when we're back together. But that never happened because during the pandemic, like I mentioned a minute ago, all the good parts of teaching sort of disappeared. It's like it was just the teacher part and no teaching. I'm just talking to gray boxes on Zoom most of the day, feeling like a crazy person. And I literally had to ask the question during a staff meeting one day, and this sounds like I'm being a sarcastic jerk, and I wasn't. They told us, when we go back to in-person teaching, we need to leave doors and windows open to allow for more ventilation. And I asked the question because we were normally supposed to keep our doors locked for security. So I had to raise my hand and go, are we supposed to open our doors to protect from the deadly virus or keep them locked to protect against school shooters? And I was like, I have an English degree and I just want to teach people about digital media. Yeah. So the other thing that had happened was my YouTube channel was a thing that I had been publishing to consistently since 2017. Since I started it, I was doing at least a video a week. I did something like 50 videos in the first 4 or 5 months, and then at least one video a week ever since till now, sometimes more. And this week I've been doing 2 videos, so watch out, overachiever. This little bonus video, because honestly, I saw this camera angle, I thought it was really fun, and I was going to make a totally different video, and then I realized what date it was and wanted to share this with you. So this is a bit of an impromptu bonus video, but I think that's kind of fun. And in that time, the channel did grow. So I was able to create my own stuff. I was able to find my own creative voice and, just kind of have a lot of fun. But the channel had grown. It grew into a business. Like I met the woman who would become my wife. We got married. We started an LLC together for her channel and my channel. Revenue was coming in. The channel was making monthly. It was making about the same as I was making teaching, except teaching you only get paid 10 months a year, and YouTube you can potentially earn money all 12 months of the year. So it was actually a little bit of a raise. It was like having 2 full-time jobs. My teaching job was, 50 hours minimum, oftentimes 70 or 80 hours a week. And then on top of that, I'm trying to do these YouTube videos and never miss uploads. And it was just too much. And I don't know that I would have ever left teaching because I loved the teaching part of it so much, but the pandemic took all of that away and just left all that remains. And it was sort of the same thing I had felt when I had the chance to leave my one job and go to another to start a program. It was like, okay, I have this YouTube channel. I think it could actually become a full-time thing. I'm the least adventurous person in the world. I like security and stability. So the idea of being self-employed, leaving a stable traditional job, doing something online was very, very scary. And, I don't know that I would have ever been actually ready to make that leap, but I decided that if I didn't do it at that time, I would regret it forever. And even if you have your degrees and your teaching credentials, there's always teacher shortages now, unlike when I was trying to get my original teaching job. There would be another teaching job. It might not be as cool, but if you want to be an English teacher, you could probably be an English teacher. If you want to be a full-time YouTuber and your channel happens to be at a point where it's a thing that you could put time into and do it full-time, that chance might not come back around again. And then if you don't take that, you might regret that forever. So 2021, I left my teaching job and have been doing this full-time ever since, which has been absolutely nuts. So I inherited another space, which was just, spare bedroom in our house, which was just prior to YouTube. This was my office/music room. And then it has morphed into an audio video production studio over the years, which I do want to point out. You can kind of, I'm in the middle of 2 projects right now behind me. So it's I have webcams and I have regular camera set up and all these things, which is also why I kind of need to film over here. It looks all very neat and organized a lot of times when I'm working on stuff. It is often a total mess in here, but it is really fun. And I get to make these videos. My wife and I both get to work from home. We get to spend tons of time together. We get to make stuff together because, we help each other on our different projects all the time. You've seen her in my videos. Sometimes I actually get to leave even and go places. I got to go to B&H in New York City a couple times last year, go to, NAB in Las Vegas. I was Road Creator of the Year, which was nuts. And that was a cool thing because when I left my first digital media teaching job and took the second, the program ended up flourishing. And it proved to me that, I could do this. It wasn't just that I was not irrelevant to the success of my previous program. I actually did play a role in it, and I was capable of doing that again. And then I did get Teacher of the Year, so much so that it went to County Teacher of the Year, and then finalist for California State Teacher of the Year, which is pretty cool. Definitely a highlight of my teaching career, although then I got named Teacher of the Year and then quit. So I don't know. But then getting, last year getting the Road Creator of the Year award was wow, okay. It felt really nice. I want to do a good job at the things that I do. And it felt I know you shouldn't need awards and recognition and stuff to do that. But who doesn't like feeling validated? Who doesn't like knowing that they're doing a good job? I don't have a boss right now other than the almighty algorithm, which, believe it or not, not the kindest boss, doesn't provide a ton of great feedback either a lot. So, hearing from people who watch the stuff that I make, meeting them in person, and then, being kind of recognized as like, yeah, you're doing a good job. It does feel good. And everyone's always been super supportive. So I'm not asking for like additional pats on back or anything, but I do really, really appreciate that. And I do want you to know, if you leave, a positive comment or something, it makes a difference. I have a folder on my computer called positive comments that just has screenshots of all the ones that I read, and they just kind of make my day. Like, I don't want to forget about those, so I keep them in there. And this again, keep in mind this presentation I'm sharing was for students who had no idea who I was. So I was like, yeah, I got to go to New York City to B&H Photo to be on this road. Actually, this was for the launch of the Roadcaster video, and I got to be with these other really cool people. At the start of the talk, I had told the students, I want to share a little bit about me with you because I'm going to share some information with you, and I want you to know who your source is. I don't want you to just trust some random person from the parking lot. And I showed them this because in this, I did not tell them to do this, but Rode or B&H or whoever, if you zoom in on that photo, they listed me as an audio video production expert. So that is official. I am officially an audio video production expert, although I don't know that I would ever call myself that. I'm definitely much more of an enthusiast in my mind. And then we went into, oh yeah, I forgot. I told him I play hockey because I was like, hey, personal stuff. I started playing hockey a few years ago. I play goalie, so that's me getting a shutout in front of a bunch of empty seats right there. And then I do have my goalie mask, which I did send off a second one to get painted recently. I have a video on my second channel about this, but my goalie mask does have like sound waves and the play, pause, rewind, audio video controls on it. So my point was, I love this stuff so much that even when I try to do things totally outside of it, like play hockey, an unrelated sport, it always seeps in because I just love audio video production so much. So that's kind of my story. And I don't know, maybe that's more about me than you knew. And after 8 years and 600 some odd videos, maybe you wanted to check more out about that. Definitely appreciate it if you did. I appreciate all the support for the 8 years. I have no idea where things are going from here. My biggest fear is that it goes away. My dream is to just be able to do this for as long as possible because I love it that much. So I have nightmares, wake up in sweats, have constant anxiety. That's all going to disappear. And recent times have been absolutely insane with like the rise of AI slop content that, how do I compete with a channel that can make 50 videos a day or unlimited videos a day? And then there's unlimited numbers of those channels. And it's, that part is scary because it does feel, it feels overwhelming a lot. My hope is that as that AI bubble kind of bursts, because it has to burst, companies cannot keep making money off of free products. I know data anyway, that's beyond my pay grade for sure. At some point, the AI bubble will burst and people will also get really, really tired of just AI generated content. I think it has a place. Like AI tools definitely have a place, but I think, the bubble will burst and then things will settle in where they're hopefully, usable and not completely insane and ridiculous. But my hope is that as people kind of get the fatigue of the AI slop content, the human-made content does. And I hate calling it content, but I don't know what else. I'm not content with calling it content, but I don't know what else to use. Human-made stuff will kind of be more desirable and have more value and pull people in. And platforms like YouTube, I hope, recognize that. I know right now it's like, oh, we can have AI channels that just generate so many videos every single day all the time, and then we can slap ads on those videos and make even more money. But when people get tired of it and stop watching, that's going to hurt everybody. So I kind of hope platforms like YouTube really do start to value, and it kind of seems like they've hinted at this, value the actual human creator-made stuff, because those are the things that are hopefully going to connect with other actual humans more. And, to me, that's a really fulfilling thing as someone who likes to make stuff and maybe sometimes even try to teach people about stuff from a businessy platform perspective. That also seems a lot more valuable. Like you have an actual audience of humans and not just a bot audience watching bot-made videos. So maybe there will be a light at the end of the AI tunnel where the AI tools have a place in different workflows and serve different purposes, but the stuff that we seek out and value are things that are made by other people sharing their unique perspectives, even if they don't always seem perfect and polished all the time. So thank you for 8 years. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the support. And I just hope we can keep doing this as long as possible.